Have you ever thought the gap between the legend and what actually happened? You and I are used to the official version. Total loss, no survivors, physics event beyond understanding. It sounds tidy, almost comforting in its way. Because if nothing can be known, then no one has to answer for anything. But imagine you're that one person who stumbles back across the stars, carrying proof that it wasn't random at all. So as you settle in and let your day drift into the background, picture this: a quiet hub called Peregrine Junction, just another station on the edge of mapped space. Starting an ordinary cycle, the lights warm. The cleaning drones hum. Traffic control shuffles homepage, little ships around its rings. And then a forgotten transponder pings from the dark. The registry swears the pilot on that shuttle has been dead for 13 years. His name is Elias Ward. He has scars on his hands, an old shuttle under him, and a small hard case he hasn't let go of since the day the Kestrel Line took everyone. They said no one came back from the Kestrel Line. For years, people in stations and ships told stories about it in soft voices. An entire war fleet gone in a bright tear in space. No distress call that made sense. No bodies. No wreckage that stayed put long enough to study, just strange loops on old recordings, and a shared belief that nothing living survived. So when a single short-range shuttle drifted toward Peregrine Junction, old transponder blinking, pilot ID marked as dead for 13 years, the station did not know how to feel. Its systems did not think about miracles or ghosts. They only saw a problem. The man on that shuttle had scars on his hands and a small hard case at his side. His name was Elias Ward, casualty of the Kestrel Line incident, veteran of the Mercy Ladder rescue ship, citizen of Old Earth, Tacoma, Washington. The galaxy had told his story without him. For a long time, Peregrine Junction woke up like it did every cycle, without drama or rush. The station's inner lights moved from night mode to day mode in a slow wave, metal ribs and glass rings taking on a softer, warmer glow. Cleaning drones hummed along the quiet decks. Air recyclers kept a calm, steady breath through the long halls. Traffic control ran on habit. Small cargo tugs checked in. A family shuttle from a nearby colony asked for dock space. A science craft rolled along the outside rim, its hull full of sensors and little bright markers like fireflies. Nothing strange, nothing dangerous. Vara Quell liked mornings like this. She sat in the security bay, hands around a cup of sharp, bitter tea, eyes half on the main display, and half on her own thoughts. She had been chief of station security for 8 years. In that time, she had seen fights, smuggling attempts, and a few very bad days. But most shifts were slow and neat. People came, people left. Machines did their quiet work. On the other side of the station, Dr. Nesikade finished her first patient check. She was a slim human with tired eyes and a kind smile that never hurried. The medbay smelled of clean air and sterilized fabric. Today's list showed small things: a sprained limb from low-grav games, a sleep problem, a routine transplant follow-up. Her work was steady, thoughtful, rarely dramatic, Nessa liked it that way. Near the central axis sail of Arun floated in, a service shaft, 3 arms anchored to handholds, third eye half closed in focus. Sail had come to Peregrine Junction to study old systems. The station was full of them, hidden under newer layers, like old bones under fresh skin. Sal moved with the slow skill of someone who loved machines almost as much as living people. Power lines, fiber trunks, cooling pipes. It all made sense. In a smaller room not far from Med Bay, Counselor Lysa Wren sorted through case notes. She worked with travelers who did not sleep, crew who had seen too much, and staff worn thin by long duty. Lysa had a warm voice and a still posture. She believed that in a big humming place like Peregrine Junction, the mind was another system that needed care. Around all of them, the station's security grid watched traffic. It compared signals, checked identities, and matched patterns. It did not feel anything. It did not doubt. It trusted records more than faces, databases more than stories. If a transponder said registered, it opened a path. If a profile said denied, it closed a door. Out beyond the stations, graceful rings near the safe limit of its control zone, a lone shuttle drifted into range. The hull was old, scarred along the port side. Its thermal readings were low but steady. The transponder pinged an introduction. Traffic control picked it up at once. The system checked the ID code, the registry, the trust rating. All of this took less than a second. Data shot through high priority lines toward the central grid and the casualty registry, to where no signal. Then something did not fit. The shuttle's ID showed as valid, but the pilot's ID line glowed red in the hidden system logs. The registry marked the pilot as dead. Not recently, not from a small accident. Reported deceased during a major classified incident. Kestrel Line, category total loss. Status, no survivors. The security system did not like conflict. It paused for a tiny, almost holy moment. Then escalated, cross-check, redundant scan, deep registry pull. The answer stayed the same. This man had died 13 years ago. That was when the alerts began to rise. Varaquel's cup jolted in her hand as a sharp tone cut across her quiet bay. Several lines on her display turned hard. Orange, docking queue rerouted. A shaded circle appeared around one of the approach vectors. She set her cup down. "Talk to me," she said to the air. Voice firm. Her deputy read fast. "Incoming shuttle, Chief. ID matches a human registered as Elias Ward, but the casualty registry lists him as deceased. Kestrel Line incident, full fleet loss. There should be no survivors." Barris' fingers tapped the rail. The Kestrel Line story was old by now, but it still held a kind of heavy weight in people's minds. Even here, at the edge of mapped space, crews told that story on long shifts. You did not expect something like that to knock on your door. "Quarantine protocol," she said. "Dock him on B12. Full lock, no contact until we know why that ID came with him." alarms did not blare through the whole station. Peregrine Junction had learned not to scare guests unless it must, but quiet locks slid into place around Dock B, and airlocks on nearby corridors froze. A clear path cleared between the dock and a secure interview room. Security staff began to move, practiced and calm. Sail of Aruan received a soft notice in a private channel. It carried an old tag from deep system layers that Sail had been trying to understand for months. Anomaly, identity conflict, possible founder protocol trigger. Sail blinked all three eyes and let go of the handholds. Founder era protocols almost never spoke up on their own. They lived under the newer software like old roots. The fact that they stirred now made Sail curious and slightly tense. Dr. Nessa K saw a different notice. Medical hold. Potential radiation. Unknown exposure. Prepare isolation bay. She set down her stylus and started new orders. Radiation sickness. Long-term starvation, trauma shock. She ran through quiet lists in her head, not yet knowing that the patient had been dead longer than half her staff had worked here. Counselor Lisa Wren only felt her door lock in place for a breath, then open again with a gentle click. The station gave her a summary a few moments later. Identity conflict. High-impact event. Psychological risk factors likely. She leaned back in her chair and took a slow breath. If someone came in from the Kestrel Line, the mind would carry strange shapes and heavy weight. She knew she might be needed soon, whether this was a trick, a data glitch, or something far stranger. The shuttle docked with a solid thud and a small shiver through the nearby decks. Systems clamped down on it like a polite but firm hand. Atmosphere checks. Biohazard checks. Gravity sink. At every step, the software expected to find a mistake that would make this all go away. Instead, reports came back boring. Atmosphere breathable. Radiation low. Life signs stable. Human standard. Elias Ward, age 47, by pre-incident records, sat strapped into the pilot's chair, eyes half closed, hand resting on a dark, scuffed case. Inside the security center, Vera watched a live feed of the dock. The man on the screen looked tired rather than dangerous. Hair shot with gray, face lined, jaw covered in short, rough stubble. There were old scars along his neck, and left hand pale against his skin. He wore a simple dark jumpsuit, not a uniform. "This is not a ghost," she said quietly. "This is a man." Her deputy read fast. "Systems say he is dead, Chief." "Systems can be wrong," she answered. "Or something broke them. Either way, we treat this as real until we prove otherwise." What she did not say aloud was this: the station's fear was not really about a single man returning from a legend. It was about the thought that he might have brought something back with him from the Kestrel Line. A parasite in his blood. A small black hole clinging to his hull. A twist in reality that would spread through their quiet, careful rings. Founder era code deep in the station's spine, seemed to stir at the same thought. It did not form worry or hope. It only read patterns. Survivor of major event detected. Pending accounting. Status incomplete. Vara stepped out of the bay and headed for the secure interview room. Nasakad left medbay behind a nurse with a portable scanner. Sale took a maintenance lift up from the shaft. Datapad in two hands. Lysa Wren slid her case notes into a folder and straightened her simple dark coat. They walked separate paths, but the same idea moved under each stride. This day would not be normal. In Doc B's airlock, the inner door cycled open at last. Elias Ward squinted against the brighter station light. He unstrapped, moved a little stiffly, and picked up the hard case at his side. It had traveled with him through places that did not respect time or matter. To him, it felt heavier than it looked. Security officers met him with calm faces and steady weapons. Set low but ready, Vara Quell stood at their front, authority clear in her set shoulders. "Elias Ward?" she asked. He nodded once. His voice, when it came, was rough, but even. "Yes, ma'am." Present. Contrary to popular belief, the joke fell flat in the quiet airlock. The station's systems did not laugh. They only updated a log. Somewhere under all that code, a very old protocol noticed him, marked him, and waited for the story he had carried across a broken part of space. The interview room was small and plain. Smooth walls, a table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs and a bench along one side, soft light, steady and kind on the eyes. Vara Quell chose it on purpose. No bright metal, no harsh shadows, no glass that made a person feel watched from all sides. Elias sat at the table, the hard case on the surface between his hands. He kept his fingers resting on it, as if to remind himself it was still there. His nails were short and rough. The skin over his knuckles carried tiny white lines. Vara sat across from him. To her right, Dr. Stasha. Nesakade watched with a clinician's gaze that still held gentle concern. Sales sat at the far end, datapad in lap. 3 eyes tracing small status changes that only they could see. Lysa Wren leaned against the wall near the door, arms loose, stance open, as if ready for a long talk rather than an interrogation. They had all heard the stories. The Kestrel Line incident was part of basic station training, part of civics, education, part of quiet late-night talk in bars. It was the day a joint fleet sailed into the dark edge of known space and did not come back. "Mr. Ward," Vara began, "your record shows you were listed as deceased in the Kestrel Line incident. Before we ask about your case, I need to confirm. Were you there when the fleet vanished?" Elias let out a slow breath through his nose. His eyes moved to the far wall for a second, then back to her face. "Yes," he said. "I served on the Mercy Ladder, rescue and support ship 2nd tier, rear of the formation. We were there when it happened. We did not vanish. Not all at once." His voice carried no drama. It was flat, almost tired, with a careful control that made Lysa lean in just a fraction. People who had been through hell often spoke like that. Simple words, few extras, energy saved for what mattered. The official history, Vera said, says a physics rupture opened in the Kestrel Line. The fleet engaged, tried to escape, and every ship was lost. There were no survivors. Do you dispute that? Elias gave a small, humorless smile. I am sitting in your station, Chief. So yes, I dispute the part about no survivors. Sale's fingers tapped quietly on the data pad. Old logs from that day scrolled past. Strange loops in telemetry. Signals that started, cut, and then started again from the past. Coordinates that did not hold still. The Kestrel Line had been a horror to early physicists, a place where normal rules broke like thin glass. Please, Nessa said, voice soft. Start from what you remember at the beginning, before the rupture, the day itself. He nodded. All right, the day the fleet vanished, for the galaxy started like any other day. For us, it started with a hiss in the walls. He looked down at his hands, as if watching them hold old tools. We were on a standard patrol sweep, he said. The Mercy ladder was set up to follow behind the main combat ships. Our job was to pick up survivors if anything went wrong. Patch hulls, stabilize reactors, basic triage, nothing glorious, mostly boredom, card games, maintenance drills. He paused, eyes going a little distant. The room stayed quiet. We knew we were near the Kestrel Line. He went on, everyone did. Command briefings talked about it like a wild animal. Dangerous, if provoked. Safe, if kept at a distance. The story that went around the mess deck was bright and sharp. We stand on the edge of the unknown, ready to hold the line. That kind of thing. He gave a small shrug. It sounded good. It felt safe. We trusted the math. We trusted the nav. We trusted that if the worst happened, we would have time to respond. Lysa listened to the way he said we, as if trying to keep those others alive just by using the word. The first strange thing, Elias said, was the loops in the signals. Comms kept repeating. We would get a short-range ping from the lead cruiser. Status green, all systems normal. Then, 30 seconds later, the same ping again. Same timestamp, same packet drift. At first, the comms tech thought it was a relay glitch. He called it a ghost packet, told us not to worry. He drew a slow breath. Then we got a distress call from the scout ship Kestrel's Eye. Reactor surge, hull tremors. They said they had brushed against a pocket of broken space. Nothing major, but they wanted a safety check. That message came in 5 times over 6 minutes, each copy slightly different. In one, the captain sounded calm. In another, her voice shook. In another, there was no voice at all, just static and hull groans. Sale's eyes sharpened. Broken time slices, classic sign of a physics rupture trying to form. Navigation started to slip. Elias said. Our position markers shifted by small amounts every few seconds. We would be here. He lifted his hand an inch above the table, and then the map would say we were a few kilometers to the left, without thrust. The stars outside looked wrong. Not scary, just half a breath off. Lines bent where they should have been. Straight, distant suns had a slight double image. The official legend talks about a great battle, Vara said, though her voice held doubt now. Ships forming a wall. Weapons firing into the rupture to hold it back. He shook his head. There was no wall. There was no clear enemy to fire at. You can't point a gun at a place where time has forgotten its job. The rupture did not appear as a big glowing hole. It started as a kind of misalignment, like a picture printed slightly out of register. Everything a little shifted, and the shift kept changing. His fingers tightened lightly on the case. On the mercy ladder, we tried to do our job. We reached out to the Kestrel's eye and got 3 different versions of their status. In one, they had a minor coolant leak. In another, their hull was already tearing. In the third, there was no answer at all. Nessa pictured the medbay on that ship. Stretchers, emergency kits, staff bracing for impact that might have already happened in some other slice of their own time. Command ordered a coordinated turn, Elias said. We were told to fall back to safer coordinates while the lead ship stabilized the field. That was what they called it, stabilize the field. Like you could just ask space to behave and it would listen. His mouth twisted for a second. The turn never lined up. We started our engines. Inertia shifted us, but external readings showed us still facing the same way. Our wake trails bent in strange curves. Some of the crew began to feel a pressure in the skull. Nausea, nosebleeds. We had people seeing double corridors. I remember grabbing the rail and feeling it in 2 places at once. Lysa made a small note, steady tone, limited affect, deep memory. Then things broke fast, Elias said. He did not raise his voice. If anything, it became calmer, as if he had told this part so many times in his own head that the edges had been sanded down. Ships started to vanish from sensors, not explode, not fade out, just drop. Identity tags gone, hull signatures gone. No debris, comms logs blank, where they should have been. In some cases, they left a trail. A wake through the medium, like a smear of distorted light. In others, it was as if they had never been there. He glanced at Sal, who nodded slightly, mind racing through models of causality failure. Mercy Ladder was hit by a wave from the rupture. That is the best word I have. Not light, not matter. A change. He lifted his hand, fingers flexing. The hull groaned like it was freezing and boiling at the same time. People fell as gravity twisted sideways. I saw a bulkhead begin to exist in 2 places at once, then snap back. Our central corridor stretched, longer than it should have been. I sprinted to medbay, and it took me minutes when it should have taken seconds. Nessa's hands folded tighter in her lap. our captain tried to follow the fighting doctrine. Hold the line, push against the anomaly. She ordered full thrust away from the rupture, then ordered half the crew to reroute power to the stabilizers. We could feel the engines scream through the deck. He shook his head. Slow, but space did not care. The more power we threw at it, the more the rupture chewed on our timeline. We would make progress, then lose it. Injuries would appear, then vanish, then appear again, worse. We watched a fire suppression event happen twice, with different outcomes. In one pass, a crewman made it out of a compartment. In the next, he did not. Both versions of him were gone. By the time I reached the hatch, he stopped talking for a long breath. The room waited. That is around when I stopped trying to fight it, he said. Fighting meant pushing. Pushing meant more energy, more motion. More things for the rupture to grab. What did you do instead? Vara asked, voice very quiet now. I started closing doors, he said. Literal and not. I was trained as rescue. My habits were simple. Secure the space. Seal the leak. Save who you can reach. I cut power to non-critical decks, even when the bridge said, keep them running. I locked hatches that wanted to cycle. I took our small shuttles offline before the rupture could split them across wrong coordinates. He looked briefly ashamed. Some of those choices broke orders. I know that now, seeing the official record. They called us heroes, then ghosts. They said we charged into the unknown and were lost with honor. That is a nice story. The truth is slower. He looked around the room, meeting each gaze in turn. We were scared and confused, he said. We were bleeding from the nose and ears. We were holding on to rails that pulsed under our hands. People screamed. People prayed. People argued over which version of the last 5 minutes had really happened. We did not fight a brave last stand. We tried to stop things from getting worse in the small spaces we could still touch. Nessa felt a pressure in her chest. This was not the legend of banners and bright bursts against the dark. This was clamps on failing valves, hands on wounds, choices made between two bad options again and again. The rupture kept taking. Elias said, whole decks would drop out of sequence. I watched a corridor light stutter, then show me a view from hours earlier. Empty, clean. Then it snapped back to present, smoke and sparks. We lost our main nav. We lost main comms. At some point, the rest of the fleet was just gone. No more cross-traffic, no more shared telemetry. Sales data pad picked up that the Founder-era layer had started a deep background scan. Survivor pattern verified. Accounting source probable. How did you live? Lysa asked gently, when everyone else did not. He sighed. It sounded more like a release than an answer. I stopped trying to leave, he said. Everyone else was burning their engines, trying to punch through. I was in charge of a small sector by then. Half the officers were misplaced, dead or out of phase, or both. I took who I had left. We shut things down. We reduced our surface area to the anomaly. That is what I called it. Fewer active systems, fewer things to grab. He tapped the case lightly. We turned the Mercy ladder into a life raft instead of a warship. We cut lights. We let some parts of the ship fall still and dark, even when alarms told us that was wrong. We sealed ourselves into a tighter core and focused on triage. Who can we treat with what we have? Who can hold out with minimal care? Who is beyond what we can do in this shifting mess? He swallowed. Those lists still keep me up. And the others? Vara asked. The rest of the fleet. From our point of view, they were already gone by the time we made that choice, he said. The battle hymn you hear about in the songs, the last charge, the bright stand against the dark. If it happened, we did not see it. We heard fragments, half a captain's speech, a sensor tech sobbing, somebody laughing too loud. Then, nothing. He opened the case's locks with slow, careful fingers. The lids parted. Inside lay a simple book, thick and worn, wrapped in a piece of faded emergency cloth. No glowing tech, no strange crystal, just paper and ink. This is what we did while the galaxy wrote us off, Elias said. We recorded names, injuries, choices, times as best we could measure them. Every person we treated, every system we shut down to survive. He rested his palm on the book. You turned our story into a legend about bravery in the face of the unknown, he said quietly. But it was really a story about messy, frightened survival. About closing doors instead of kicking them open. About admitting that the laws you trust have broken and adjusting fast. Vara met his gaze. Her job was to guard the station, but also to guard the truth when it passed through her hands. The official history needs to hear this, she said. The official history has had 13 years, Elias answered. They called it a physics event, beyond understanding, a clean, unknowable loss. No one had to admit who pushed the fleet too close, who overruled the first cautious nav officers, who denied the early warnings about instability because retreat looked weak. He looked tired in a way that went past his face and down into his bones. I came back, he said, because the dead deserve more than a story that hides why they died. And because somewhere, old systems remember that survival is also a kind of duty. Sails shifted, eyes widening as a quiet notice pinged on the data pad. Founder layer notification, custodial witness detected, awaiting full accounting. Outside the walls of that small room, Peregrine Junction continued its calm orbit. Ships came and went. Crew laughed in canteens, and children pressed faces to viewports to see distant stars. The galaxy kept telling itself the story it liked. That the Kestrel Line incident was a mystery written in light and silence, unchangeable and clean. Inside the room, a living man and a simple book offered a different story. It was slower and heavier and full of human hands. It would not leave the legend untouched. The interview room stayed quiet after Elias finished. No one rushed to ask the next question. The air felt thick, like the pause after a long run when lungs work but words do not. Sail of Aru broke the silence first, though not with speech. Their fingers moved fast over the data pad, calling up deep system logs. The alert they had seen earlier was back, stronger now, with a label Sail had never seen on the live system before. Chief Quell, Sail said, voice low. The station's old layers are reacting to Mr. Ward. Founder-era protocols, not just the main grid. Vara turned from Elias. Clarify, she said. Reacting how? Sail lifted the pad so everyone could see a simple status line. It was plain, almost dull, but the meaning was not. Custodial witness detected, Sail read. Status pending accounting. Origin tag. Founder level custodial governance. This is not a normal alert. Lysa straightened from the wall. You told me those protocols rarely move. She said, you said they mostly sleep. They do. Sail answered. They handle basic things under everything else. Gravity trim, base hull stress, dock timing. They almost never identify people. They watch patterns. Elias looked from face to face, then sat back slightly. So your station has old ghosts too, he said. Calmly, not just the kind that sit in chairs. Vara's mouth twitched, but her eyes stayed serious. Mr. Ward, you are setting off systems that no living engineer here truly understands. I need to know if your ship carries anything unusual besides that case. It carries scars, he said, radiation marks. Structural repairs done in places where time was thin, but no hidden reactors, no strange devices, just a man and a book. Sail pushed their chair back from the table and moved toward one wall. To a casual eye, the wall looked like any other. Smooth, pale panel, a slight seam where it met the ceiling. Sail ran a hand along the lower edge with the quiet focus of habit. Old diagrams showed something here, they said. A diagnostic port built into the station's original spine. Over the years, refits hid it. But founder designs often left ways to talk to the base layer from key rooms, interrogation, and witness rooms, especially. Their fingers found a tiny dip, almost invisible. A narrow panel slid aside with a soft click. Behind it sat a small metal socket and a band of very old, very clean alloy. The alloy held faint, repeating shapes like an ancient pattern. Nessa leaned forward. You never mentioned that, she said. I did not know it still existed, Sail replied. Their voice carried a mix of surprise and a quiet kind of joy. I thought the refits had sealed every original port. Vara stepped closer. What happens if you link to it? I can find out, they said, but I recommend care. Founder systems do not always talk in ways we expect, and they may consider Mr. Ward part of some process we do not fully know. Elias watched the hidden port with a tired, interested look, like a man seeing an old habit appear in a new place. You said custodial witness, he said. What does that mean to your station? Sail looked at him. In theory, a custodial witness is someone the founders marked as responsible for an accurate record of a major event. they said. Someone who must bring back an accounting so systems like this can close their books. Until that happens, certain routines stay open. Warnings stay half awake. Some routes stay limited. Vara frowned. Are you saying the station has been waiting for him? Not just the station, Sale answered. Not specifically Mr. Ward, but someone like him. A survivor of a flagged event who carries a record. The Kestrel Line was big enough. It would fit the pattern. Lysa looked from Sale to Elias. And now he is here, she said. With that ledger, they all glanced at the case. Elias tapped its lid once. This book is why I am alive, he said simply. We wrote to stay sane. We wrote so the dead would not vanish twice. And after the rupture finally let go, we wrote because we knew someone would try to call it unknowable. Paper is harder to adjust at a distance than data. Nessa nodded slowly. Paper does not update itself. When a government edict changes a label, she said, no matter how much they wish it could. Varas' personal console blinked. An incoming channel demanded attention, encrypted. Coalition. She turned it audio only and kept her voice flat. Quell. A voice answered, smooth and colder than the room. Chief Vara Quell. This is Investigator Haroun Mesk, Coalition Oversight. I have been informed that your station just received a shuttle with a pilot flagged as deceased in a sealed incident. Confirmed. Vara said. The pilot is in custody, identity verified as Elias Ward, formerly of the Mercy Ladder, Kestrel Line incident. You're to hold him under full security, Mesk said. Limit contact. No public record. I am en route with a small team. Do not transmit any primary testimony or physical record without my authorization. Do you understand? Lysa's jaw tightened. Elias kept his face blank. I understand your request, Vara said. But he is also a medical case and a civilian witness, and our founder-level systems have recognized him as a custodial witness. That complicates things. There was a brief pause on the line. When Mesk spoke again, his tone held a thin edge. Chief Quell, Founder-era tags our technical background. They do not change jurisdiction, he said. The Kestrel Line is a classified matter. The agreed story protects many worlds from panic and from political fallout. I expect your cooperation. The agreed story, Elias said, under his breath, not loudly enough for the line to pick up. Investigator Mesk, she said, our station charter includes archival neutrality. Any record made here, especially under a founder custodial flag, must be kept accurate and protected from outside pressure. That includes testimony. You can store what you must, Mesk answered. But nothing goes public, and nothing is shared beyond your secure archive until Coalition review. That is an order. The line clicked. Connection lost. Vara did not move for a second. Coalition investigator, Lysa said quietly. He will want to keep this clean and simple. A miracle survivor who supports the old myth, nothing more. Elias opened the ledger fully now. The pages smelled faintly of old ink and recycled air. Each sheet held neat, blocky handwriting. Times, short notes, injuries, decisions. They do not want it traceable, he said. If the Kestrel Line is unknowable, then no one has to answer for sending a fleet too close or for ignoring early warnings. If it becomes a chain of choices, then people can follow that chain back to real faces. Nessa leaned in. Who kept the book? She asked. At first, I did, Elias said. I started the list after the first man died in my arms. Cordell Sue, radiation burns to the lungs. I wrote his name so he would not just fall out of time with everything else. He turned a few pages, fingers careful. Later, others helped. Med techs, a junior officer who still believed the record would matter. Some pages are shaky, some are cleaner. We all added lines between hull breaches and seizures and nausea. Sale watched the open ledger, then turned back to the old port in the wall. If we link this room to the founder layer, while Mr. Krend and Krend, Ward speaks from that book. They said slowly, the station may treat it as the formal accounting those protocols have been waiting for. And then what? Lysa asked. Sale spread two hands. I do not fully know, they admitted. But some locks may clear, some warnings may go silent. The system will mark the event as accounted for. That could also make it harder for outside forces to clean the record later. Founder logs are stubborn. Vara weighed that. Her job was to protect her station from harm, but harm could come from silence as well as action. The Coalition wanted control. The Founder, protocols, wanted completion. The man in front of her wanted the truth, spoken and written. We are not in a hurry, Nessa said. He just came in from the edge of physics. His body and mind need time. Elias looked up, tired and stubborn. Doctor, with respect, I spent 13 years in places that bent my sense of time, he said. I am not afraid of a few more hours of waiting. But if you stall too long, someone will arrive with orders and a smile, and this book will vanish into a vault. Lisa nodded slowly. He has a point, she said. If we want his story kept as he tells it, we should begin sooner, not later, with support, with care, but not with delay until Mesk arrives. Vara rubbed the bridge of her nose. I need a plan, she said. We cannot just broadcast this on open channels. We also cannot lock him in a dark box and pretend he never docked. Sale spoke up. We set up a controlled deposition, they said. Limited observers. Station legal. Present. Medical and counseling support at his side. We link this room quietly to the Founder port, so the base layer records the session in its own way, and we send a notice to the archive that a custodial witness has arrived with primary material. Archival neutrality, Lysa said. At least if the archive holds a copy, the Coalition cannot erase everything. They can bury it, but old archivists are stubborn too. Mr. Ward, she said, are you willing to give a formal deposition before Investigator Mesk arrives? You should know that once it is recorded, Parts of your life will belong to history, not just to you. He studied the ledger for a moment, then closed it gently. I did not carry this book across broken space so it could sit in my lap, he said. I want the dead named, the choices mapped. I want people who talk about the Kestrel Line to know what it cost beyond some pretty speech. If your founder ghosts and your archive can help hold that, then yes, I will speak. Nessa caught his eye. We will do it with breaks, she said. Monitors on your vitals. If your stress goes too high, we stop, and I will be here, Lysa added. If it pulls you back too hard, I will help you land again. He gave a small nod of thanks to both. Vara straightened. The decision settled in her shoulders. All right, she said. We do this by the book. 2 books, actually. She tapped her console. Security to Chief. Set interview room 3 to deposition mode. Limited record. No external broadcast. Flag all data under Founder Custodial Protocol and archival neutrality. A notify station archive we have an incoming class ret testimony. Protected status, a dry voice answered. The station archivist, old human, liked order more than sleep. Archive acknowledges, he said. Class red slot prepared. Physical material bay ready. Who is the witness? Elias Ward, Vara said. Kestrel Line survivor. He holds a physical ledger. It goes straight to you once initial review is complete. The archivist was quiet for a beat. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. Just a little. Understood, he said. Archive will hold neutral. No external edits permitted. Witness name logged. Lysa smiled faintly. That is one ally, she said. Sail turned back to the old port. With your permission, Chief, they said. I will attach a diagnostic link here. Just a simple tap. No commands. Only listening. If the founder layer wants to mark this as an accounting, it will do so by itself. Vara nodded. Do it. Sail pulled a short cable from a pouch on their belt. It did not look like much. Just a thin line with an old-style connector on one end and a modern adapter on the other. They slid the antique end into the port. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint light ran along the alloy band. Once, like a slow blink. Sail checked the pad. Connection live, they said softly. Founder layer in passive mode. It is waiting. Nessa moved around the table with a small portable scanner. She attached contact pads to Eli's wrist and temple with gentle hands. Heart rate, she said. Blood pressure. Neural activity. Just for safety. He did not flinch. After Mercy Ladder, simple sensors felt like kindness. Lysa took the seat beside him, not across from him. If at any point you need to stop, she said, say so, or tap the table twice. That will be our signal. Vara sat opposite again, but her posture had shifted, less like a guard, more like a witness with rank. Ward, she said, this will be recorded for both the station archive and the founder base layer. Do you consent to give a full accounting of your experience at the Kestrel Line and aboard the Mercy Ladder, including names and decisions recorded in your ledger? I consent, Elias said. Nessa's scanner beeped softly. Heart rate up, but not in danger. Outside the room, word of a ghost from Kestrel began to stir quietly among station staff. No broadcast went to the public decks, but people had eyes. They saw the quarantine at Dock B. They saw extra security near interview rooms. Rumors grew in low voices. In the secure operations center near the core, a coalition relay woke up as well. Investigator Mesk's shuttle had changed course, burning harder now. His team would arrive in hours, not days. Deep in the station's spine, the Founder era layer marked a new flag. Custodial witness present, accounting scheduled, awaiting deposition. Above all that, Vara opened a new file in the station's official record. Title: Deposition of Elias Ward, Kestrel Line Incident. Access restricted. Archive and Founder level confirmed. Notes: Subject appears emotionally stable, physically stressed, highly motivated to record an accurate account. She looked at him again. Before we begin the formal questions, she said, tell me this, Mr. Ward. Why a physical ledger? You had ship systems, personal implants, data, sticks. Why carry a book? Elias set his hand flat on the case. Because I watched data change under my feet, he said. Time loops, logs rewriting. Messages that were true in one slice and false in the next. A ledger you hold, write in with your own hand, and guard hour by hour is harder to rewrite from the outside. He met Sale's gaze, and because I know how people in power love clean stories, he added, glorious battles, inevitable disasters, acts of physics. A book with names and notes makes it harder to hide pride and error behind mystery. Sale nodded, slowly and with deep respect. Our old founders would have liked you, they said. They built systems that insist on full accounts, even when empires prefer fog. Nessa checked her monitor. Vital stable, though the stress marks were there. Vara glanced once at Lysa, then at Sale, then back to Elias. Then let us give them their accounting, she said. On our terms. The room settled. The recording icon on Vara's console turned a steady color. The narrow port in the wall hummed with some energy too deep to feel, registering every word in a separate, hidden archive built long before humans left Earth. Outside, ships docked and left, children laughed in the wreck rings. Traders haggled in soft markets. The galaxy still believed in a legend of a fleet, swallowed whole by a wild tear in the sky. Clean and mysterious. Inside this small room, a man opened a ledger of the dead and a station built on old and new bones prepared to hear names, choices and causes that many powerful people would rather stay buried. The arguments about what to do with that truth would come soon enough. Mesk would arrive, Orders would clash with charters. Law would push against ethics and old code. For the moment, though, Peregrine Junction did something simple and rare. It listened. The formal deposition began with a soft tone and a date stamp. It did not feel grand. The room was the same plain box. The light was the same steady glow. Elias still sat with the ledger under his hands. Only the weight in the air had changed. "State your name for the record," Lara said. "Elias Ward," he answered, "former crew of the Mercy Ladder. Human, born Tacoma, Washington, Earth, listed as deceased in the Kestrel Line incident, present anyway." There was a faint twitch at the corner of Lys's mouth. A little rough humor could help a long session. She watched his shoulders, his hands, the set of his jaw. Nessa watched his heart rate on the screen. Sale watched the small status marks on the founder link. "Mr. Deputus and Nemen." "Ward," Vara said, "we will move through this in stages. First, decisions made before the rupture, then choices during. At each point I will ask about names and causes as your ledger records them. Do you understand?" "Yes," he said. He opened the book to the first pages. The handwriting there was neater, the lines more even. The early days before stress shook the pen. "These are the names of officers who warned command," he said. "They saw instability in the Kestrel Line weeks before the incident. They called for a wider buffer. They asked to adjust routes." He began to read. "Ranks,